From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back to Locked On Chiefs, your final Red Friday of the 2019/2020 season. We are excited because for that especially, as well as this is our last preview. We're going to go through everything you need to know for this Super Bowl matchup, previews, matchups, goals that they have to accomplish in order to get a win here, as well as our predictions. But it's all been leading up to this particular day, this contest, this
Super Bowl Sunday
culmination. Yeah, it is. It's going to be a great time, and they are, the Chiefs, that is, are very healthy. Again, another full day of practice. Nobody didn't practice, unfortunately for the Chiefs. That was also true of the 49ers, which means Quan Alexander, Quisky Tart, Tevin Coleman, all practiced in some form or fashion. They will be available, full rosters, both sides, for this Super Bowl.
You know, honestly, say what you want, but that's exactly how I would want it. This is a game for all the marbles. If you can't get up for this game, don't know what to tell you. But you look at what this game is going to mean for both teams, and obviously it's huge. It's the Super Bowl. We all know that. But it's like I said, I want them as healthy as they can be, so when they lose, that they don't have an excuse of, oh, sorry, we had these guys that were out. Kansas City's got players on injured reserve. 49ers have players on injured reserve, but the guys that are available are going to be ready to play, and I fully expect Kansas City to be ready. And Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo are going to be ready for this game as well.
Yeah, and they have to be. 2 weeks of preparation, and from what we hear, what they're looking at right now as they wind down preparations physically anyway. There's still going to be film, there's still going to be meetings and mental preparation, but concentrating on goal line, on red zone, first and second down on defense. What that means, folks, is they're preparing to stop the run. That has to be still the crux. There's a number of things we're going to talk about in the next segment about what we think is going to happen, and what those matchups are, and how they're going to go about it. And there's a couple of things very, very important that are coming. But that all is prepared for by getting your reps in on the field and getting out of there, not pushing anybody too far. There's no hitting this week. It's a pretty patty cake week for what NFL players usually go through.
Yeah, but Thursday practice is the big practice for the Chiefs every single week. They're going to basically have a walkthrough on Friday, so that'll be pretty much all they do. But you're right. At this point, they are working on goal line. They're working on some specific sets. And I guarantee you Andy Reid's got some plays that he's been working on just for this specific week to open things up against the 49ers. And we're going to talk about how he can do that against this defense here in a couple of minutes. But you start looking at some of the core pieces in this game. I mean, Kansas City is home team because the AFC is home team. They're wearing their red jerseys. You already know who the captains are. We already know all of this stuff going into this game. What we don't know is how it's going to play out on the field. And when we come back from our break, we are going to start getting into the X's and O's of how this team can put together a victory for this game on Sunday.
We really need to get into not just player-on-player matchups, but general concepts, because there's a couple that are lurking out there. I see a lot of people talking about spying, and the Niners trying to put a spy on Patrick Mahomes. I really don't think that that's something that they have to put a whole lot of effort into. Their front four should be able to get pressure, but if they don't, I think it's more likely that there's a fifth rusher than anything, because I think putting a spy on Patrick Mahomes in this particular situation with a cover 3 team, or one that wants to play predominantly cover 3, I think that plays right into his hands.
I'd have to agree, and I think what you're going to be looking at is, and what you have to worry about if you're San Francisco and you try to spy him, is you are wanting to be in your base scheme, which is going to have 4 down linemen, and it's always going to be rushing 4 down linemen. If you're going to do that and you're going to put a spy, that means you're going to have a fifth person, which means you only have 6 to cover. That is not going to be enough to cover this Kansas City offense. I really don't think San Francisco's going to go that route, because that is just, there's too much speed on this team to be able to get to the holes that are going to be able to open up, and Patrick Mahomes will either find it or he will make his way with his feet to open something else up.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think of spies in the cards. I do think eventually there'll be a fifth pass rusher. I do think that's going to be something they're going to have to do. We look at some of the tendencies.
Yeah, but they have to be careful with that.
They do, but they are more likely to blitz on 3rd down than any other down, and I think that's consistent with trying to get there. But on the other side, I expect them to feel this kind of pressure. The Chiefs are working on first and second down in practice. That's out there in the media, and they're hearing that too. Personally, I wouldn't expect anything else. I expect a heavy dose of Ragland and Hitchens, Damian Wilson as well, but I really feel like they're going to have to go some nickel, but they're going to have to be first and foremost stopping that run on first and second down. And so what that tells me is that if I'm the Niners, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I do all kinds of my what Frank Clark calls eye candy pre-snap, and I come out and I'm going play action right off the bat. First down, second down. I am going to try to get my offense into the end zone that first drive by pulling out all the stops. The first 15 for Kyle Shanahan has to be as good or better than Andy Reid's if the Niners want to win this game.
I could see that, and I could definitely see Kyle Shanahan trying to go all out in this specific game, trying to get to that point and try to score first. I think that could be important for San Francisco. The problem you run into there is you're in a situation where your quarterback is not near as good as the one on the other side of the field. If he makes a mistake early on, that could really come back and cost you. So while I do think that it could be something that they try to do because they are going to want to get it out to a quick lead, which will help them run the ball better in the second half, I'm not so sure that they come out trying to go down the field. It wouldn't shock me, I guess. But in this game, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to go away from some of what they've done and their tendencies, because I don't think that that's going to work in their favor if they try to do what's gotten them here at this point. Spagnuolo's had time to figure out how to really slow down what they've been doing on the running the ball, I guess is the best way to put that. And I think that that's going to be something that they're going to have to try to figure out. Okay, so we may not run the ball as well as we would like, but we can go and do this instead. And maybe that's a short passing game. Maybe it is going downfield. We'll have to see what the 49ers come out with. But I think that they're going to have to go away from what they've been doing the past couple of weeks, just because I don't think that it's going to go well for them if they don't.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are prepared for that. That's got to be their focus. And now that's not to say that they still can't get things done, because the angularity of the Niners offensive line is supreme. The more I've watched their film, the more you start to appreciate just how well he sets them up for angles on their blocks. They've got a lot of nifty little things, and I put some film up on Friday morning, Friday lunchtime anyway, from RGR that shows some of those things. And for those of you that don't have the visual, it's about those angles, and they get those cracks. And so I still feel that they can get a couple of chunk plays. But that's what that brings me to this matchup, is that the run game of the Niners offense, when they choose to use it, versus the Chiefs' run defense. It's not about stopping them. It's not, you don't even have to control them like you did Derrick Henry, who is a more powerful runner, formidable in terms of his specific contact with each player, but I don't feel it as explosive. So you can still let them get yards. They're going to get chunks. They're a very good team. This is probably the closest Super Bowl I've seen pre-game in 5 years, something like that. They are going to get their yards. It's about not allowing the huge chunk plays, especially the ones that go for scores.
Yeah, and if Kansas City can slow them down and not allow them to get those big chunk plays, I think that goes a long way for them winning the game, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But what it really comes down to for me is, can Kansas City just make stops? Obviously, you have to get a team into third down before you can get a stop and get the ball back on fourth down, and that's basic football. But really what it comes down to is winning on first and second down on this defense. If you can do that and you can put them down into a 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 9 situation, or even behind the sticks to where they're 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 12 because they've lost a couple yards on a run play or a sack, then you're in a great position to really use your defense and use the strength of what your defense is great at. But you have to be able to get there first. And I do think that they have the talent to be able to do that. It's just a question of whether or not they're going to be able to figure out how to get San Francisco in those looks that they can get them into those positions early on.
Well, and that's the thing, is it's tough to get San Francisco there because they'll run on 3rd and 8 and run for 40 yards. You know, they're not as typical in what they do at down and distance. And I'll say this too.
But they have to be perfect if they do that.
True. But they've been very, very good. Perfect's a stretch by any means for any team, but yeah.
Well, I'm just saying they have to be better than average or way better than average if they're going to run on 3rd and 8. They have to be closer to perfect when it comes to blocking assignments and making sure you hit your holes, because it's one thing to be able to get 3 or 4 yards on a run. It's a complete another to have a run that you think can get you 12.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it makes a big difference. And now I won't put it past them, but the other thing I won't put past them is I do feel like there's going to be more pressure on the San Francisco offense to maintain or build a lead to begin with after what they've seen the last couple of games from Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. So I feel like there's 4th and 2s, there's 4th and 3s, there's 4th and 5s that I think they will go for.
I absolutely agree with you. I think if they get to a point where they are sitting there at 4th and 5 at Kansas City's 40, then they should probably go for it, and they probably will go for it. I do think they're going to be more aggressive. This is a Super Bowl. You're playing for everything at this point. You can't be passive in this game. So I fully agree with you. I think they will be going for it on 4th down, but that gives Kansas City an even bigger opportunity at that point to send the house. And I fully expect that they're going to send the house on several different plays that maybe San Francisco wouldn't expect them to.
Yeah. Especially when you get those. We saw one that affected the Texans the same way that the Ravens had, very similar, sending Matthew off the edge, sending Ragland in the B gaps. This is something that they'll sprinkle in here and there. And I think that's important. The thing that it brings me back to is the other matchup that concerns me in the pass game is how they're going to do that when they're trying to probably double Kittle in order to force the ball into someone else's hands. So you may see Tyrann Mathieu try to line up on him tight. I think they should do that with Dan Sorensen myself and let Matthew play the bracket on him. But whoever is there, if they're going to show that they're going to play tight man and try to bump Kittle and knock him off of his route, they also have the ability to blitz from there, and I do expect to see that.
I also have to wonder if they're going to be using Doriana Daniel just a little bit in this game, just to kind of mix things up and have a guy in there that has a little bit more speed. One of the things that you look at with Garoppolo is he really likes to throw in the middle of the field, and if you keep him in between the numbers, that is where he is most comfortable. If you can find a way to take away a lot of that space, he doesn't have the arm obviously he doesn't have the arm of Mahomes, but he doesn't have the arm to be able to get the ball out on quick outs as well. So I think that's something Kansas City could take advantage of. They'll have more time to break on a ball if they force him to throw outside.
Yeah, and I think that kind of plays in the Chiefs' hands too, because, I mean, you can call Tyrann Mathieu landlord all you want, but the spot that he earned that title in, his spot that he gets rent on is between the numbers. So that robber thing for him is where he's going to be lurking. I do expect him to get his hands on a ball, if not pick one off. So when we get back, folks, we're going to go into the goals that they have to achieve in order to get a win in Super Bowl 54.
I do want to get into the goals, but I have to ask you this, because this really kind of floored me. I was looking at some next-gen stats, and you were absolutely right about the 49ers blitzing more on 3rd down, and that makes a lot of sense. But when you start looking at Patrick Mahomes versus Jimmy Garoppolo, it surprises me to know that Garoppolo has almost over 11%, 11% more when it comes to completion percentage on downfield throws, 20 yards down the field, more than Patrick Mahomes. The difference? He throws down the field on only 6% of his throws.
Exactly.
Patrick Mahomes throws down the field at like 13% of his throws.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically 1 in 7 throws. Patrick's going beyond 20 yards, and that's not Garoppolo's game. He's 20. I mean, honestly, I think Garoppolo's best between the numbers between 8 and 15 yards. But the fact that he connects well means that I think they've schemed up their route packages pretty well in order for him to take those 6% of his deep throws.
But this goes back to what we were talking about earlier real quick, because I really like this from Next Gen Stats too. 16 of 18 career interceptions for Patrick Mahomes, with 4 or fewer pass rushers coming after him, which means he only has 2 interceptions against the blitz. So he is very deadly against the blitz. He has 115.8 passer rating versus the blitz since he's been playing quarterback, since he's been starting, second among QBs. You just really don't want to go there with him. So
yeah, I mean, it brings it back to San Francisco. It's get there with your 4 or you don't get there.
Right. 23 to 2 when you're talking TD to INT ratio on blitzing. And I just don't think you want to go there. I'll take a 12 to 1 ratio every day of the week.
Well, and here's the thing. You probably don't want to go there if you're San Francisco. If you're solid, you don't want to have to blitz. But if they're marching down the field, if they're getting chunk plays, you have to. You have to do something to try to disrupt that. And if that gets to that situation, and it doesn't have to even be the score necessarily, it's about moving the ball. If they're giving up chunk plays, you're going to see Saleh come after him. He's going to have to. And I think that's going to lead to, like we've seen all year, and quite frankly, Mahomes' whole career, if you are going to give him an opportunity for a deep play, something he can break the pocket on with one less defender out there, he will make you pay.
Absolutely. Real quick, and we need to get into our goals. Over under on how many screens we see in the first drive.
I'll take the over on 2.5.
Yep. I'm taking the over on 2.5 as well. As long as they get to a 7 or 8 play drive, I fully expect there's going to be 3 or 4 screens in that drive.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to be trying to work to get those 49er pass rushers to really be thinking about the screen game.
Well, and that's my goal number one. That's what you have to do. You have to slow them down somehow. Either the screen slows them so they...
I stole your goal, huh? There you go.
Yeah, I was trying not to put that out there, but thanks.
You're welcome.
But that's the heart of their defense. Yes, their secondary is solid. I think their safeties are still exposed, but their strength comes from their pass rush, specifically from Bosa and Ford. I think the guys on the inside are good. I think they probably are actually a little bit ahead of the matchups than the ends versus the tackles, but that's really what it is. And you can either slow them up by beating them up with chips, tight ends, whatever you need to do. You could slow them up by running the screens so that they actually take a little bit off of their game in terms of rushing upfield. Or you can just pound them. And we know Andy's not going to run the ball, so there's either a physical limit to it or there's a mental limit to it. And I think that they're going to attack both of them in that first drive and see what they can get done.
Well, and you say Andy's not going to run the ball. I'm not so sure about that. I think that we're going to see some things from Andy that we haven't seen all season. And I don't know that that's going to include your buddy the sausage, but I do think it's going to include
yes, it will.
A couple of runs and maybe some outside sweeps. And really, the bigger question I have, and we won't get this until Sunday when inactives come out, is does LaShawn McCoy even play? I would think he does, but at this point, who knows? And if he does, what's he going to be doing? I do think that I love what Williams has brought, so don't get me wrong on that. I really like what he's been able to do for this team lately. But McCoy gives you something else that Williams doesn't. McCoy has a shake that Williams doesn't. And I think that that could be very valuable on Sunday if they trust him. But that's the big question is, are they going to trust him to be able to do that? Because they haven't since, December.
Yeah. Daryl, I miss you. I think the team does too. But
he misses being out there.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be back next year. I think he'll be good as new. I trust him to do his rehab, but this game, I agree with you. Like, that could be a spark or it could be nothing at all. We just don't know what's going to happen with it.
Or it could be deadly. I mean, if they put him out there and he fumbles, that's even worse.
Oh, don't even start there. But
well, I'm not trying to, but I mean, you have to wonder why he hasn't played, and that's my big thing.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can come up with. So, but when I start talking,
and I'm intrigued by your thought that Andy might run more.
Okay.
I hope you're right.
Intrigued by my thought?
Yeah, I hope Andy runs more, but I also want to see that they use that to what they do best. I want to see them come out with Sherman and run play action because I feel that that's going to help them as well, especially against those safeties.
Well, I want to see a fullback screen, but,
Hey, I'm down with that.
I'm just weird like that. Yeah, I know
the two fullbacks in this game could both run wheels for days. So I expect to see that from one team or the other. I just hope it's Kansas City.
Yeah, it's fair. Because you'll be disappointed if it's not. Anyway, my first goal that I want to talk about real quick, though. Patrick Mahomes' sack total or sack numbers under 2.5. If they keep him clean and he only gets sacked twice during that game, and I will even go to the point of saying get hit, 7 or 8 times. If they can keep him to that total, I think he's going to tear this defense apart. Because at that point, he's not rushing throws. At that point, he's not trying to just run around for his life. And I think that is a huge deal in this game. If this offensive line can play one of their best games that they played all season, and don't get me wrong, they played very well in the playoffs. They've kept Mahomes clean, and Mahomes has helped that as well. But this is a different defensive line than they've faced. This is a much better defensive line than they have faced. So, to me, that's a big goal. If you can keep him to where he only gets sacked twice and maybe hit 7 or 8 times, Patrick Mahomes is going to win you this game.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I think that the matchup in the secondary is something that when scrambling, I feel that he has the advantage because I feel like he knows where he wants to go with the ball, especially. It's about, I think, edge pressure rather than front pressure. I think if you can control Bosa, and Ford's going to get a couple on you. There's just no way around it. He's just too fast. He's also just as likely to line up offsides. Ask Frank.
But you can chip him, and I think that's something that they're going to use with him. I think that they're going to. I really do think that they're going to use Blake Bell and Travis Kelce to be in on the line and hit Ford from time to time.
Well, I say run right at him.
Huh?
I say run right at him.
Well, and maybe they will, and I'm not so sure that they won't. But I'm thinking that they're going to use the tight ends to at least take shots at him. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's a brilliant way for them to play Ford, because if you get in his head early in the game and he gets to a point where he gets frustrated, he's either going to get a penalty or, well, he's probably going to get a penalty, I guess is really the only way that's going to go. So, because I do think Kansas City can get in his head.
Yeah. Well, so we have slow down Kittle, be able to bring pressure, slow down their pass rush. What else? I'll give you my key, and I was holding this for the video because I want to show it visually, but it'll be out by now. So the guy that I think is goal number, what are we on, 4? That you got to contain or at least keep an eye on. It's not Emmanuel Sanders in my mind. If Emmanuel Sanders beats this team, something's gone very wrong because they know him too well to allow that to happen. It's Deebo Samuel that I think of the rookies, and we've seen a number of rookies, McLaurin, Metcalf, obviously McCole Hardman. A lot of rookies at the wide receiver position have had uncharacteristic success for a rookie season. I don't know that anybody's better than Deebo Samuel. Sorry, A.J. Brown, I forgot to even say your name. But Samuel's creepy. He can run behind the line of scrimmage. He does the jet sweep for them very, very well. He carries the ball. He lines up in the backfield. He's a guy that, as much as Tyrann Mathieu is a jack of all trades on the Chiefs side, Deebo Samuel's the same guy in their offense.
Yeah. No, and Deebo Samuel, I think, is going to play a big factor in this game, and it's a question whether or not they're going to be able to figure out how to slow that offense down, because really what you want to do against San Francisco is you want to stop the run. That is their big thing. If they can keep their running game to under 150 yards, I think they're in great shape for this game. If they get to a point where they're running for 200 yards, then that's a problem. My last goal, though, when you are looking at this game, you start looking at San Francisco going down the line. You look at Kansas City going down the line on both sides of the ball. If you can keep them under 150 yards, I think that's a key. But I think one of the bigger keys is how many times you force Garoppolo to throw. And I'm going to put it at, if you put Garoppolo in a position where he has to throw the ball 15 to 20 times, you're going to win this game. And I'm not saying he can't make plays, but I don't think he's going to make enough plays if you make him throw 15 to 20 times in this game, because you're going to have enough pressure, one, and you're going to have enough coverage and Matthew and the other DBs disguising enough. I think Kansas City's defense has proven that they can do that well enough to get their hands on the ball at least once or twice.
Yeah,
so
I agree with you there. I was going to put the number around 20, but 15. That could probably.
Well, I mean, that's double what they did against Green Bay. So
well, there's that, right?
That's really what I'm looking at. I mean, I don't think he's even thrown the ball 15 times in the postseason at this point. So, if they can make him basically go to a postseason high in one game over his past 2 postseason games, I think they're in a good position, because at that point, that's not what San Francisco wants to do.
Right.
They want to run the ball. They want to use the clock. They want to keep Mahomes off the field, and the best way for them to do that is to run. So if you can get them out of their game, I think they're going to be in a better position, and I think that's how you do it. I think you make them have to throw. You get them behind the sticks. Like I said, you find a way to stop them, and maybe you're run blitzing every first and second down. Maybe you're rotating your guys in so quickly that on the defensive line that they have the ability to give you 2 or 3 plays where they're giving 100% all out every single play. And I know a lot of people would love to say that everybody does that every single play, but you just can't. You can't when you're in a game like this. I mean, you can give all your effort all you want, but you're going to be trying to hold something back for the fourth quarter.
Yeah, 60-plus snaps, that nobody can sustain that. That's why there's rotations at different positions, particularly up front.
Yep.
So I like where the goals are at. So before we get to the magic part, where you tell us exactly what's going to happen, and I'm off in dreamland about the Chiefs running the ball more than the Niners, that would be special.
And Anthony Sherman be on the field.
Right? So that would be special, of course. And this is special as well. Our friends at Nyco give us something to let you guys know about that's really, really special.
Yeah, this football from Nyco Sports is fantastic. And like I said before, it truly is one of the best pieces of memorabilia that you can get to commemorate the Super Bowl appearance after 50 years. Kansas City has not been in the Super Bowl for 50 years, and they're playing to win their first one. From Super Bowl 4 to Super Bowl 54, it'd be fantastic to have this football to commemorate that. This football is fully embossed with all the scores and logos from this season, and has a large picture of Patrick Mahomes along with his stats and giving you more of Chiefs history from this season and their history going back through the years as well.
And I know it's going to look pretty good on your shelf. I'm sure it would help everybody else to try to keep up with you. It's one of 5,000. That's what it comes down to. This is the 50th anniversary of the last Super Bowl. There's 5,000 of them. They're $99. Any Chiefs fan worth their salt deserves to have this to commemorate this particular game. So dial 1-800-345-2868 or go to NICOsports.com. That's NIKCO sports.com, and mention the Locked On Chiefs podcast. It's something that everyone will remember, and it's really, really unique. I'm looking forward to seeing it in person myself. So that takes us to why we would think something's going to happen. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll let you go ahead. I've been going first the past couple of times.
Okay. This is what I think, and I hope that I'm wrong about this first part, but I expect the Chiefs to go down early.
Yep.
Maybe it's just 10. I would certainly be happy with that, but it might be 14.
I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
And I know we need to talk about the scores and predictions, but this kind of goes along those lines. What we have talked about with Matt Derrick and what we talked about yesterday and kind of what we've talked about a little bit with Reed is he's going to be aggressive in this game. If the Chiefs win the toss, do they defer? Or in this specific game, do you say, screw it, I want my offense, I want my boy on the field, and I want to go after him right now?
I can see where you're coming from, and I might do that, but I'm pretty sure Andy Reid is a creature of habit, and he's going to defer, and he's going to want that second half start. So that's what I expect. It was just on NFL Network. The teams that have won the toss the last 5 years and deferred have all lost. So just going to throw that out there. But yeah, okay, karma sucks. I'm with you.
Sorry,
yeah.
I had to ask the question because to me, I could see it going either way. I agree with you. Andy Reid is a creature of habit, so I fully expect if they win, they're going to defer because you give Patrick the opportunity to score twice in a row, and that would really deflate that team. But thought it was a good question to ask. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. I find it interesting about the past 5 years too. But yeah, I think Andy will be Andy, and what that means to me is that hopefully it's not nerves. Hopefully it's not errant drop passes for no reason like we've seen the last few weeks. But if it is, I'm not going to panic. I know Chiefs Kingdom is going to panic. They've seen it too many times before, but I do expect that sense of urgency to come storming back. And I do feel like it might take the defense a couple of series to get a handle on what's going on. As much as Andy Reid is great at coming up with plays, Kyle Shanahan is very, very good too. And so even though they've studied the film, they're aware of how they block and how they generate the angles. I do feel there's going to be some wrinkles in there. They're going to get the Chiefs in a bad position, and they're going to be able to run early. But I don't feel that it's going to be for huge 30-yard gains. I think they're going to have to work harder, and I think that helps the Chiefs. And I do feel like we've seen in games past that Spags gets it together. And then I feel like once the second quarter hits, the offense has its legs, the defense has an understanding where they're going. I think then it's off to the races. And whatever they can do, like you said earlier, to get in third and longs, to get in third and even fives, puts this team in an advantage on the defensive side to make this Niners offense try to keep up with Pat Mahomes, because I feel like they will be hitting on all cylinders. So at the end of the day, I feel like that's the kind of the game flow that goes on. And I do see the Chiefs being the one that outlasts, that's able to get more things together when something goes wrong or when something doesn't work out the way that they planned it on paper. So I do feel that as good as the Niners defense is, it's not going to slow them down that much. I do think that they score over 30. I do think that it gets to, I'm going to call it 34 right now. And I do think that the Niners play well and are going to run well specifically. But I'm calling it 34-28 Kansas City.
It's interesting. It's a one-score game at the end, and I get it. I've been back and forth on this game. I look at it and I say, who's got the best player on the field on Sunday night? And it's Kansas City. You can't argue that. At this point, you just can't argue he is the best player that's going to be on the field. To me, does the defensive line of San Francisco scare me? Yes. Do I think that Andy Reid knows enough about football to figure out things that can put his offensive line in position to get Mahomes enough time? Because it's not like he has to have 4 seconds or 5 seconds in the pocket to be effective. You give him 2.5, 3 seconds, he's going to be fine. Mm-hmm. And I fully think that even if they do get down early, like you said, it's going to be because San Francisco is going to come out and show them things that they didn't expect maybe that they were going to do, or they haven't really used that much of this year. And that's a different situation. And I think that they're going to be fine. Mahomes is processing well enough this season, and this is the scary part for every other team going forward. He is seeing so much when it comes to defensive schemes and teams that are trying to disguise things, that he is figuring it out either right before the snap happens or as soon as the snap happens. And Eric Fisher talked about that during the press meeting with the press earlier this week, and I thought that was very interesting. One of the other things that I really think that plays into this game that we haven't had a chance to talk about is all the players really want this for Andy. But there's another guy that was talked about in an article with Albert Breers of SI that really wants this game for Andy Reid, and it's Steve Spagnuolo. And I think he is going to play a huge part in this game. I think this defense is ready for this challenge. I fully expect Spagnuolo is going to get out there and understand, okay, this is what they're doing. This is what they're trying to do. Here's how we can stop that. And he's going to have a plan in place for that. So is it going to worry me if they come out and score 14 points early? No, it's not. Because if you look at Kansas City's history when it comes to their defense, they have struggled early on, but they always are a team that adjusts. And I think with a guy like Tyrann Mathieu and a guy like Frank Clark and a guy like Chris Jones, you have those leaders, and Anthony Hitchens even, you have those leaders all over this defense that are not going to let them get down. If they get down on the scoreboard, they're not going to let them get down in the game. They're going to keep their spirits up, and I think that's going to be big going forward. And then you start looking at what Kansas City has on offense, and if Kansas City can slow down the defensive line, then the offense is going to pick them apart. Patrick Mahomes has done fantastic against cover 3 and cover 4 this year, which is mainly what San Francisco has done. And San Francisco doesn't have the men to go man up against Kansas City. They just don't. Even if Sammy Watkins has an off game, between Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, and Travis Kelce, you have enough receiving weapons. So I think that Kansas City is going to run away. I don't know. I shouldn't say run away with this game, but I fully think that they're going to win this game, and I think they win it by 10 points, maybe. I'd say 35. I'd say 35-24. Okay. I do think San Francisco is going to be successful, but I think what you're going to see is that when you get to a point where San Francisco has to try to catch up, that's where you're going to put your defense in the best position to be able to defend their offense. And while Jimmy Garoppolo has the ability to make plays, I don't think he's going to be able to make plays against this defense when they know that he has to pass the ball. It's different when they have to try to defend both the run and the pass. But when you have to get to a point where you're more one-dimensional because you're down, that changes the ball game, and they haven't had to play that way all year. So I think that's going to be a big key in this one.
Yeah. I think, honestly, at the end of the day, the more times Garoppolo has to throw, the better for the Chiefs. The less likely it is that the Niners win. So that's what we think, folks. Let us know what you think. Hit us at Locked On Chiefs on Twitter and give us your prediction. Put it in the comments on the RGR. Put it in the iTunes reviews that we've been getting more of. We really appreciate that.
We do. And please go check out that football from Nyco Sports. You will not regret it. We really do appreciate their sponsorship this week, and be sure to check them out because that's a great deal.
Yeah, it's a super cool little ball. So I'm pumped, and I know you guys are pumped. So we'll leave it there for this week, for this pre-Super Bowl Red Friday. We'll be back with you post-game. I make no guarantees that it'll be quiet in my house when I record this. So
we make no guarantees as to when we're going to be recording, because once they win, we might be watching for a bit to see all the stuff that goes on. So
very much so. But you'll have a pod by Monday. We'll put it that way. So thank you guys. It's been a long season. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have and enjoyed this last game. We will talk to you then. Ryan Tracy is the founder of Rogue Analytics and the host of RGR Football on YouTube. Follow him there. Chris Clark is a senior analyst at ChiefsDigest.com, where you can get his work. Rate and review at Apple